And we are back in another beautiful interview right here on Unity Live Radio. And we have with us a special person over there in Indiana, USA. She is a YouTuber, a book author, an entrepreneur, and a speaker. She is indeed the lady Lisa M. Bennett. Of course, Lisa has been an executive of a multinational Fortune 500 company in the past. She credits most of her success to the life coaching that she received from an ancestors and published her new book in hopes of sharing the important lessons and wisdom that she learned with others. Lisa is now using her gifts to help people gain the confidence they need to go further. And we welcome her today to the Lady Tracey Show. We welcome you, Lisa Bennett. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, Lady Tracey, and I am feeling extremely blessed to be having this moment with you and your listeners on this podcast. So thank you for the honor. Thank you for the invitation to come on and talk about let's just keep living. My
And
conversations
I
are
am thrilled. I am thrilled to hear about your work, Lisa. Can you tell us a little bit more about who you are? I know I've said a lot, but I'm sure there's something that we have missed out. There's always something missing.
well, like you said, you pretty much summarized it. I spent a lot of time in industry working, first starting my career in radio and television production, believe it or not. Many years ago, that was my intent and focus. And then I've quickly switched and found out that I like training and personal development of people. Human capital is what we call it now, developing workforces. And so I spent 23 years in post-secondary education in Rochester, New York, at a university called Rochester Institute of Technology as a project and operations manager. And then quickly found out that my gifts were in high demand outside of the secondary, post-secondary education arena. Not where they're only in high demand, but you could double and triple the money you were getting once you left education and went into the corporate sector. So I transferred over to the corporate sector. It was still about training and development of people. And so I spent years as what you call a change manager and a operations process improvement person, working for EY, what we call the big three in the consulting industry. I worked for Deloitte, I worked for EY, which is Ernst & Young, both as for both of them as independent contractor. And then later I joined Accenture, which is the largest end-to-end consulting firm in the world, as a change management practitioner. Okay. And so in short, I go into companies when things sort of are not right or they need to go through some transition and help them plan out how to make the processes and people scale and or move into the new desired state from the current state. So
beautiful.
It's been rewarding work, but
yes,
you know what? I was going to say in the last jump, Tracey, that you mentioned was my practice now. I am a mindset coach because what I found out during all of that career move, what it really was that I was attracted to was how to motivate people. And I found out that really it's about their mindset and what they position themselves to believe about themselves. And therefore, you know, when your workforce believes in their own ability, then they give good, productive work. So I've kind of switched gears. I do the same kind of work, but it's change management of people for their own specific rewards rather than changing them for the company.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay. And I'm sure that persons will be able to reach to you. But before we get to that, you just released a book, Lisa. And this book, I noticed you're kissing a lovely lady on it. I'm assuming this is your grandma. I'm just assuming. But can you tell us the history behind Just Keep Living and what was the inspiration about it?
You know, so here's the irony of it all. I like I said, I like I like to motivate people. And so the irony of this book is it came out of just the opposite. It came out of devastation and grief. I have been blessed enough that in my 56 years of living, that I grew up with my great grandparents and their siblings and obviously my grandparents, my mother, etc. And a lot of people can't say that they've had multi-generational living. I have had multi-generational living all of my life. And so what happened in 2016 is an event happened that really triggered my whole family. My mother passed away, and it really threw me for a loop because again, I'm accustomed to people living to be 100 years old. My great grandparents passed away. I was in my 30s.
Wow.
So my mother died, but my grandparents were still here. And
Wow.
my mother's death just, it's just not something I was used to, being so close to home. It's not as if we had experienced death, but people
Right.
again live in my family to be so much older.
Right. It
And
was shocking. Hmm.
it was shocking, right?
Yeah.
And right prior to that, 3 months prior to that, my
Hmm.
mother's younger sister passed away. And so
Oh.
we were just trying to figure out how, as a family, to deal with that. And then my mother looks at me on Christmas morning. It was Christmas, December 25th, 2015. And she
Hmm.
says, I can't do this without my sister. And I
Wow.
said, you can't do what? She said, I love my sister. They were like what people call um, twins. They weren't twins, Irish twins, when people are so close together that they feel like they were born at the same time, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so when my aunt died, my mother looked at me Christmas morning and said, I can't do this anymore. And 10 days later, she was gone.
Wow.
So it left me in this, our entire family, just in this place of shock. And like, what do we do? But we had to quickly pull it together because my grandparents, who were all well over 90 years old, were still
Hmm.
with us.
Yeah.
So we figure out we got to get it. We can't
Yeah.
take too long grieving because
Hmm.
we've got to take care of them. But
Right.
shortly thereafter, my grandparents started passing away. And so in 2019, so my mother died in 2016. By 2019, 3 out of 4 of my grandparents had passed. And
Wow.
so I was just at a really deep place of despair and grief.
Wow.
And to the point where had become suicidal. I just did not want to be here anymore. And prior to my grandmother, the one who's on the front of the book with me,
Hmm.
prior to her passing, she was just a jokester. And so I had written and posted on Facebook a couple of the exchanges between she and I, where she would call me at work, like pretending like she had an emergency or doing something silly just to make me laugh because she knew the depth of grief that I was experiencing.
Wow.
And so I started publishing some of those stories on Facebook, and people looked forward to them and
Hmm.
say, hey, what did your grandmother say today? What joke did she pull on you today? What did she say that was crazy today? You know,
Wow.
and how funny was she today? And so, but soon after, my grandmother passed. And so
Wow.
I slid back down to a despair level that I've never known before. So what
Hmm.
happened was the inspiration for the book was because as those things started to come around on my timeline on Facebook, and I would
Hmm.
find little scraps of paper that I had written things out about the exchanges between she and I started to laugh.
Hmm.
And then I reposted some of them, and other people will say, oh my God, I miss your grandmother. I used to laugh so much. And so finally, someone said to me, you need to just write a book. Your grandmother had crazy stuff to say and do all the time. And what
Wow.
happened as I was going through the therapy to try and pull myself together, the
Hmm.
therapist and I were talking about my grandmother, and I started writing more and writing more and writing more. And then we just decided, well, if I'm laughing and I'm at this level of despair, and other
Hmm.
people are telling me how they were looking forward to what she had to say and what she
Hmm.
thought, then maybe I should write a book. So
It
that's how
could
I
be a
ended
good
up.
therapy for you too.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's it. I think it's a good therapy for people
yeah,
to just
yeah,
laugh.
yeah.
So
Wow.
when I'm
This
having
is
a day,
beautiful.
I pick it up and I read it and I go, oh my God, you have to laugh. If you
Right.
grow up, if you've grown up with any elderly people in your life, that's the way they see the world, and they're just so, they cut straight through it. You know, it's not all these
Yeah,
multiple layers of
yeah,
gray area. This is
yeah.
just the way it is. And you go, really? So you have to laugh. And
So
so that's,
Lisa, thank
yeah.
you. What can you just tell us something special out of this book? Can you just read us something special? I know it's probably not expected, but they should get it to buy it if they want to hear it. But I'm just
Oh,
curious because I mean, we're in Black history, and one of our greatest Black history encouragement is love and history. And I just think that your story is so impelling. We need to, have a feel of what has been carrying you through.
so I'll give you this one. And I won't read them verbatim because I talk about them all the time. So
Right.
my grandmother, in the last 2 weeks or so of her life, she had decided, in her mind, she didn't say this to me. She kept saying, I want to go home. I want to go home. She was in a rehabilitation facility because we really thought she was going to get better.
Okay.
And so I came home. I had slept in the facility with her for months. I mean, she checked in February of 2016, and I slept with her every night at the facility until she passed away, except for maybe 4 nights. You could count them literally on your hands. And so the night that I came home, she had said to me a few days prior, she said, I want to go home. I'm ready to go home. And I said, yeah, okay. I'm going to bring you home. I'm going to bring you home. But we kept putting it off, just hoping she was going to get better and she would give it up. So one of the nights that I decided to come home, I get this phone call about 4:00 in the morning. It says, hello, may I speak to Lisa Bennett? And I said, this is Lisa. They said, well, I said, who is this? She said, this is the 911 operator. And I said, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? What's happening? She said, do you know a Jesse Wilson? And I said, yeah. She's my grandmother. I said, what's going on? What's going on? Because in my head, my grandmother's at the facility. So I'm going, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? She said, do you know where Miss Wilson is? I said, yes. She's in a facility. She's in rehab. What's going on? Because I'm scared. And she said, okay, nothing, everything's fine. She said, I just had to call you to verify that you knew where she was. And I said, I don't understand. She said, well, Miss Wilson, she said, we got a call through the 911 operator. So we had to send police over there because Miss Wilson said she was being held against her will. So I said, hold on, I'm on my way. I jump in my car, run out there. And I said, what's going on? So I walk in her room and she's sitting there. And I said, what did you do? She said, what's wrong with you? I said, you called 911. She said, yeah. I said, well, what's the emergency? She said, I want to go home. I said, that's not an emergency. You can't call 911. She said, I didn't tell them that I was held captive. She said, isn't it their job to rescue people? And I said, yes. I said, but you're not in any danger. She said, I didn't say I was in any danger. She said, I'm being held against my will. I'm ready to go home. And so they took that as she was being held captive in chains somewhere. So yes, so I had them take the phone out of her room. She said, I didn't say that they were beating me up or anything. I said, I'm being held against my will. I want to go home.
Wow, that's beautiful. I mean, you could tell that she was really living it, Lisa. Even when she was on her last, she was living it. Thank you so much for sharing. So if persons want to get Just Keep Living, where can they go to get it, and what's the cost for this book?
So fortunately for me, you can get it. Most people are going to Amazon, and you can get it on Amazon. It's certainly available. You can also get it in Barnes and Nobles. You can get it in Walmart. It is a number of Gardner's books. It is available if you do just a regular Google search, you will find it everywhere. But I do offer autographed copies of the book through my website. And the name of the website is justkeeplivingthebook.com. So if you go to justkeeplivingthebook.com, you can order an autographed copy of the book from me through there. That copy of the book, only because it has to be mailed to you and mailed and shipped to me, is $30. If you get it directly from Amazon or any of the other carriers, it fluctuates by price depending on who's got it, but it's typically the audio book, or the ebook, I should say, is about $8 to $9, and the book itself is about $19.
Perfect. Awesome. Beautiful. Do you have any future plans, Lisa? I mean, I'm sure there's probably a part 2 coming out or something.
Yeah, so I've had two people reach out to me, and they've read the book and said, have you thought about doing an audio book version? And I go, oh my gosh. So there is discussion right now of an audiobook version coming out. There's also, one of the things is when you're writing about familial things, the stories can go on and on and on and on. And I got to tell you that the reason it stopped where it did at 30-something pages is it's about 60 pages. It stopped there because I just said, okay, that's enough. But I probably have 60 more pages. Okay. And I was talking to my children, because my children have the benefit of having grown up with my grandmother, which is their great grandmother. And so I will say this to you really quickly. My son had on these pair of pants, and my grandmother says, go get me my sewing kit. I'm so tired of you walking around with them holes in your breeches. And he starts laughing. He said, these aren't holes in my pants. I bought these like this. She said, what? You bought them like that? And so I walked into the room and she said, did you know that your son paid $100 for some pants, so some breeches with holes in them? I said, well, yeah, they say that's the style. She said, the style. That's what he said. She said, you're just as stupid as he is, and you're supposed to be his parent. So I told my kids, you have as many stories as I have, so you should write yours, and then we will add them to the next iteration of the book, along with some
That's
of
a
the
great
stories that I'm going to
idea.
add.
That's
And
a
so I
great
think it's,
idea.
yeah. So, and
Mhm.
there are she has 7 great grandchildren. So I think, yeah, and if you look at the pictures in the book, you'll see my nephews, and we're showing her how to throw up gang signs, and she's throwing up gang signs, and another picture she has on their shades, and she's sitting in the car bopping her head to Rihanna. And so, yeah, there are lots and lots of stories,
Wow, this is a beautiful
because,
family book. I mean, it's
yeah,
something that your future will want to read who have never met your grandma. And I think you
oh
did a
yeah,
great job, Lisa.
thank
One
you.
last thing before you go. Is there anyone you'd like to acknowledge quickly?
Here's it. I just want to thank God. I just want to thank God for the blessings, because there are a lot of people who never, and I didn't realize this. I'm 56 years old, and it was always a normal thing for me to have my great grandparents and my grandparents around. So it never occurred to me that other people didn't have great grandparents to grow up with, or great grandparents and their siblings to grow up with. We've always had 6 generations. So I'm just grateful that my family now even understands today more than we did even maybe a year ago. We understand the treasure that we have. So I just thank God for the treasures of, and these multiple generations of gifts and stories and things that we can pass down. And my prayer is that when people pick up this book, they will start to understand the greatness and the gift that they've been given by having exposure or time with their grandparents. And if they haven't started valuing it, to start doing it now.
Amen. All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, that was awesome. I really enjoyed hearing you today, and I'm just so happy that I had you on our show. So there you have it, listeners. Lisa Bennett over there in USA. She was here as our book author or YouTuber, and of course, a speaker. Find her. She's there, and she's now a coach. Yes, so you could probably get some encouragement from her. Visit her at justkeeplivingthebook.com, and you will see more about her. Thank you, Lisa. Have a wonderful day. It was a pleasure having you with us on the Lady Tracey Show.
Thank you.
All right.